All right, so today we are doing a really fun project in class, and we are painting this portrait of a zebra. This is the reference photo that I have gone ahead and traced. I used my graphite paper. Remember, the shiny side is the side that goes down onto your paper. If you aren't sure which side is which, just scratch a little bit onto scrap paper and you'll be able to see. If you did that the wrong way, nothing's going to happen. So, what I recommend is that when you put this down on your paper, you put your reference photo on top, then you use your tape to tape both things in one spot down to your paper. That way you can lift them both up and check out your progress if you need to without getting your paper wiggled all over and getting a blurry mess. So I traced out the zebra. Now I traced this out a couple of times because I'm going to do this exercise now, but I'm also going to do it in class. And the second time I literally kind of, put in some marks on the graphite paper that indicated to me as I was putting down my masking fluid where my darks were and where my lights were. So we are using masking fluid. Of course, mine doesn't have a label. Okay, so the one I was using doesn't have a label on it, but I think it's actually named Drawing Gum on this brand. And it's blue. There's another one. This one's by Winsor Newton, and this says colorless masking fluid. It works the same. I like having a colored masking fluid myself personally because I can really see where it's going. This one is not colored. There's also another brand that has an orange color to it. So you can kind of see. What we have masked off are the white spaces, the light colored spaces. So we're not going to have to worry about protecting those as we are painting. So I went ahead in kind of the theme of our entire class. Oh, by the way, we also have done the value scale at this point. So we're able to see, even with black and white, how different the values are here versus in our highlights. Right, so we're using that as a tool. Now, I have mixed up some colors, keeping it in a cohesive manner with the rest of our lessons so far. I'm going to be using 3 primary colors. I am using the warm 3 primaries from Daniel Smith, so French Ultramarine, Pyrrole Scarlet, and New Gamboge. So on my palette, that's these 3 here. The French Ultramarine, Pyrrole Scarlet, and the New Gamboge. So what I've done, I have those 3 pigments out, but then I've also mixed up an orange with these 2 and a purple with these 2. Now the purple is what I'm going to be using for most of my darks. I do have a little bit of lamp black over here that I'm going to use in my accent. But most of my painting is going to be using the 3 colors, right? Our 3 primary colors. French Ultramarine, Pyrrole Scarlet, New Gamboge. And these are from the Daniel Smith Essentials collection. Now, you don't have to use these colors. You can experiment a little bit. But I really thought that because we are painting this kind of African safari portrait, that the warm color palette would be perfect for this. So I'm thinking about the fact that now I am going to be painting my darks, but they don't all start dark. For example, in the nose area, and this is where I'm going to start, we have really a very light kind of area here in the nose, and it's very kind of orangey reddy. So I am going to start there, and I'm going to drop in my orange, and it's going to be a fairly light wash. I can always come back and do more later. But I'm going to start with this wash kind of up in this area and kind of bringing it around, maybe a little bit more here. Then I'm going to take my water, just water. Of course, my brush is dirty from this orange, but I don't care. So I'm going to bring this in like this, and then I'm going to take my darkest color, and I'm going to start plopping this in. But I don't want my nose to be too solid. I like this variation, so I'm just going to plop that in and leave it alone. Just like that. We can always add a little bit more dark later. I am pooling a little bit here, which I don't want. I do have my paper at a very slight angle here, which kind of helps you to see, helps me to see. And I want to keep my edges here quite crisp. I'm not too terribly concerned about making it absolutely perfect, but I do want to have, you know, quite crisp lines. So then I'm going to start taking this color, this dark color, and I am literally going to wash it over the entire rest of this zebra. Okay, so I know that some areas are going to be darker than others, but I'm not going to concern myself about that right now. Right now, because I have my masking fluid where all of my lights are going to go, except for right on the inside of this ear. In that area, I didn't mask it because it's not white. Neither is the other inside of the ear, but they are lighter than this color, so I'm going to go back with a different color there. I put highlights in the eyes, so I'm not worried about that. Up here, where I'm gonna have this hair, or the mane, or whatever it is on a zebra, I'm gonna just use that flicking motion to start to get kind of that punk rock hairdo that zebras are so famous for, you know? And the cool thing about this method is that because you've already done all the planning and all the work and all of, you know, getting your values right, your colors right, making your drawing how it is, getting your masking fluid down where you need it. I need to mix up a little bit more of this color. So again, this is just the purple from my worms. So my ultramarine, my pyrrole scarlet. And it's okay if it's slightly different. I'm not concerned about that at all. We can always come back in and make some of these areas darker and some of them lighter. But with watercolors, of course, we want to start lighter and know that we can always go darker. And I am doing an 8x10 size on this, but my paper is bigger than that. So no worries if I'm going over here and I'm going a little bit off the paper, it's no worries. That will all be taken care of once we have our mat and our frame and everything. So don't worry about it. Okay. And we do see that we've got some pooling areas here where the water is repelled. The water and the pigment are repelled by that masking fluid, no problem. Just kind of wipe that off a little bit, no worries. Now I want to take a look again at, so, while I have my masking fluid on, right, looks like I got a little bit of a bleed here. I just want to kind of, uh-oh. We're just going to kind of smooth that out. It's okay to make mistakes, see? No harm, no foul. No one will even know. But I just want to kind of blend that in so I don't have a big bleed right here. But I don't mind that highlight that accidentally happened on this nose area here. So I'm going to just kind of work with that a little bit more and make this area kind of lighter up here. Okay, now in this, we can see that our really glossy blacks are back here. So I don't want to make all of my stripes black because I don't want it to look like I colored this in a coloring book, you know, I want to make it artistic. But I am going to take a little bit of this black. This is just lamp black. I am watering it down, but now, and see, I'm splashing it around. See, this would be too thick, right? I don't want it that thick. It's gonna obliterate everything underneath it at that point. So I want it about like this, and I want to start kind of just dabbing it a little bit, you know, like I don't want it to cover everything. I don't want to take all of these highlights away, but in the places where we're going to see the most shadow, right, like under the armpit here and kind of at the belly, right, that's going to be in the most shadow. Maybe this foreleg here, right up here, will be in more shadow. I'm not even looking at the reference photo at this point. I'm just thinking about, like, if the light is here, the things on the bottom, right, are gonna be slightly more in shadow. And then I can take some of this purple and blend up here too. So it's not such a stark contrast. Now what's fun to do, this is not necessary, but it's fun. While we are working with so much dark, okay, first, go ahead and paint in this eye. Now I have blocked all the areas that I need white in this eye. So as long as I get this relatively in the right spot, it's gonna look cool, I promise. I know, it looks like a hot mess right now, but don't worry. Don't worry. Kind of making it a little bit darker around the eye, blending that black in a little bit, but not worrying too much about any of the rest of it because I've already taken care of that part. Now, what I think is kind of cool to do in like this main area, I think it's really fun to put in some of these warmer highlighty colors. Because remember, the value is about the same here. Right, and we're gonna have some of these warm colors in our white. But how fun is that? And then, right, as you start to go down, and see, look, I'm even putting some of this color in my darks because darks aren't all one color either, right? So I'm just blending that in a little bit, making it more exciting. Now down here, I might just add a little bit more blue into this purple color that I've already got going and start putting some more of this blue and this purpley blue down here, where as we go into shadow, our temperature of our color will naturally get cooler. Okay. Now up here in the ears, I'm gonna drop in this orange color, but I picked it up with a dirty brush. So I have kind of, it's like a dirty orange, I guess, and that's perfect for this. And this ear had some darker spots in it, kind of like so. And both of the ears too have just, you know, the hint of this pink in the middle. Okay, so now we wait. Again, you can do some more of these cool colors down here in the shadows, the warmer colors are gonna go up here where it's warmer, cooler down here. Uh-oh. I might actually just, while I'm here, put a little more of this black over here. Okay, now we have to wait for it to dry, the hardest part. Maybe I'm gonna put just a little bit more black in the eye. Okay, now we have to let it dry. Boom. Okay, so now that I am completely dry here, I've noticed that my values are not quite in line. These need to be darker and the bottom needs to be darker. This is all fine, but I need more dark in these areas. So, and I want to do a little bit cooler in these areas too. So I've mixed up the same purple, but with more of the blue instead of, so I'm still using the Pyrrole Scarlet, the Ultramarine Blue. So I've mixed those up, just a heavier concentration of the blue in this mix. I do still have some more lamp black here too, so I probably will mix a little bit of that in certain spots. So I'm gonna take from the bottom here, where I want cooler and darker, right? And so I'm just gonna start blending this up a little. Now up here, I don't really want to change that color, so I'm not, you know, I don't want it to go all the way up there. And if you need to soften, just clean off your brush a little bit, get it damp, not dry, and go in and soften some edges. And remember, there's going to be variations in these stripes. It's okay for that. And then going back in, I'm really trying to concentrate my cool dark down here. And in this, I'm going to soften that just a little bit. I'm going to take some of this lamp black here and just go over some of these darkest areas with the lamp black. I don't want it to look like I'm just using black to make stripes, but there are some of these darkest dark areas that need to be darker than the rest, and so that's all we're doing here, is making that happen. Okay, so as that dries, I'm going to go ahead and do the background before I take off any of the masking fluid. Okay, so in our reference photo, our horizon line is right about here-ish. And so I am going to, I have a little bit of a dirty brush, I don't care. I'm gonna just wet this area first. You know, I am really kind of avoiding touching my zebra too much. So we're going to do a little wet on wet here for this part of the background. And remember, our mat is going to cover up this very bottom. Now I mixed a really watery, it's mostly the New Gamboge, a little bit of Pyrrole, and a little bit of the Ultramarine. So it's like this weird kind of muddy, grassy color. And I'm putting this on really wet. I do have a little bit of this, you know, that's going to stick up here. And the background is so not the point of this portrait, right? So I'm not real worried about how my background looks so much. But I do want to have one just in case you want to put one in, and you don't have to do these same colors. You can do something else. That's totally fine. So we have our grass kind of land blocked in, and now let's do the same up top. I think for this, just because it's one of my favorite sky colors, I'm going to go with a cerulean blue, and I'm just going to make it really nice and watery. But because in my reference it's really kind of muted, I am going to take just a tiniest bit of that lamp black and put it in there just to gray this out a little bit. And then I am literally going to turn myself upside down here. I'm not going to pre-wet. I am going to take this background and just, you know, I'm okay with getting a little bit of that fuzzy look. I want that. And I'm okay with a little bit of bleed. I don't want too much, but a little bit is okay. Too much black. I'm just concentrating some of this color up at the top one of the other things in the reference, there was kind of a line here. Maybe it's like some sort of grasses or other foliage there. It doesn't matter. I just want a small indicator of that. And then kind of as I move this around, I can determine how much of this pigment and water I want in my background, in my sky. I'm just moving it around. I'm very, very wet here, but we are getting some really pretty texture. And so I'm just going to kind of enhance some of this texture here. Just make it look like there's a cloud in the sky. Okay. We can also kind of just soften around here. We know that whenever you have an object, you're going to have a shadow, and we can kind of just use a little bit of this sky color and whatever I'm getting from my zebra, and do a little bit of a shadow. Not much, just a little. Remember, it's still very sunny here. And I might actually put a little bit of this warm color just up here. Kind of like if the sun was kind of just beating down. Uh-oh, I got black in there. I don't want that. And then because I don't want it so like perfectly dotted, I'm just going to take a little bit of my spritz, and then I'm going to also get rid of some of these puddles here. You know, it's okay for us to have a nice little cloud, but it can't be ginormous and, you know, looking funny. Okay. I think that is enough for me for a background. I am happy with that as I keep messing with it. Now I'm just making whimsical marks because, I don't know, I got into it and it was really fun. And so I thought, oh, cool. Kind of looks like, you know, the clouds are flying off of this zebra's head. How fun. Okay, enough, right? So I need to stop. This needs to dry. And then quit messing with it. Quit messing with it. Just stop it. Just stop. Okay, I'm done. Okay, so I am dry. I used my blow dryer, so I got a couple of unexpected little things, but that's okay. It's totally fine. So when you are going to get rid of your masking fluid, it kind of works like rubber cement. You can rub it with your finger, or if your finger gets tired, you can rub it with a towel. And it's going to make a mess, and it's okay. But that's also why you absolutely absolutely have to have your paper completely dry for this. It does not work. It will be a big hot mess if your paper is damp. Your paper must be all the way dry. Isn't that fun? Oh my gosh. How exciting. Now, okay. We have our zebra revealed, and our values are looking really good there, but now we see in our reference picture, we have a whole lot more of this brownie color and red color than anything else. And in fact, these whites are actually kind of yellow up here too. So now what do we do? Okay, so now we need to mix up some color to put in our whites. I want to start with this very, very red spot. It kind of looks like our poor zebra is a little bit sunburnt. So I'm going to keep in the same color family, and I'm going to go to this pyrrole red here, and I'm going to just use this like really straight up, but I'm going to use it very, very lightly. I'm just putting up my reference photo so that I can see it. And I'm going to just start right here, and it's okay that that dark is mixing a little bit. Okay. It's okay. Now I'm going to take some of my new gamboge and mix it with this pyrrole red and start just lightly putting that there and here, and then just bringing this down. Okay, that's enough. Now in the rest, I'm gonna just start adding some more of the yellow. And when I'm looking at my reference photo, it's not hitting every white spot, right? It's hitting some, and especially up here where it's very sunny. And then down here, it's a little bit more red and darker again. And see how that's kind of blending? That's okay. And then up in this very front part in the face, I'm not really gonna do anything much to this part of the face. I'm going to touch just a little bit of this sunny color up here, a little bit more of this red and sunny color down here, and kind of blending it up. And then I just have a damp brush. I've taken most everything off. I keep just kind of plopping it down, but I just want to blend this so it's not such a stark contrast. But I want to keep all of these whites really white. I also want to, on this nose here, we lost some of this pinky color in the nose. I want to put a little bit more of that scarlet in here and then just kind of blend it down into this nose. And then I'm going to take some of my blue. I'm not mixing it on my palette. I just took some of the blue, saying, okay, on this cooler end of this nose, and you can see that it's making kind of this purple color on the paper. Right? And so at this point, even though I started with wet paint and I'm glazing over dry paint, it's still mixing somewhat, and I'm getting a really beautiful, cool, warm kind of color combination. And see here, I can just take my clean damp brush and clean up this area right here. But remember, there's also a shadow here, so I'm not too terribly concerned if this is bleeding down a little bit, and that's okay. And that can just kind of come down into the background. Make some squiggles, it looks painterly, right? Okay, so I think I'm pretty much done with that. The only thing I want to do is add some dark details in the ears. So again, I'm taking my blue and my red together, and I'm making quite a thick dark color here. Let me just switch to a smaller brush, and then I'm going to take just some of this dark and start making some of these kind of detail marks in this ear and define some of the edges of the ear a little bit. It doesn't have to look exactly like your reference photo. Don't worry about that. You're just wanting to give it some shape and definition, because we're wanting to make this a three-dimensional shape, right? And so here, again, I want to define that top edge of the ear. I know that this is a dark. I want to define over here just a little bit so that we can see the edge of this ear. Okay, I'm bringing that down. In this area too, I'm gonna add some of this dark hair. I think that would look nice. And then I can add some more punk rock hair, you know, to this cool guy or gal. I don't know. I don't know how to tell the difference from the head of a zebra, if it's a girl or a boy, or if it matters. Okay, so I've just kind of redefined that. So now what we've had with very little effort, this needs to get defined down here a little bit too. Got a little bit too messy on that edge, which is fine. We can just kind of go back through and clean that up a little bit. And you can mess around with this as much or as little as you want. But the cool thing, I think, about this is that you get such a really cool effect. You have all of these beautiful colors. We really only used 3 with the addition of a little bit of lamp black. And speaking of, I am going to put a little lamp black on to my palette here. And we're going to just take this detail brush, using it just barely damp, thick paint, so the paint is really almost directly from the tube. I'm just going to go in here and make really dark these eyes. And it looks like he had a little something here that I missed earlier. So I want to just kind of make sure that I'm keeping the highlights, but I'm making this eye really, really nice and dark. And it has like kind of this tear duct thing that goes out like this. Okay. So that looks really nice. And then in the same vein, I'm just taking this black and defining his mouth or her mouth. So now kind of looks like benevolent zebra now. A little bit more soul, a little bit more personality. And while I used the black, I still wanted to soften it out just a little bit. Black is a very harsh color, even though we're painting a black and white painting. And then I think it's also cute too, like on the nose, if you do kind of a little bit of a mottled texture. Okay, that's it. This is our zebra portrait. This is our reference photo. We have our zebra portrait here. We used our masking fluid. We used our value scale to figure out, okay, this is a black and white object, but there are a lot of different values in here. So we used that to help figure it out. We were able to build up our darks over a couple of layers. We were able to create a nice washy background and have this stunning zebra. So I hope you enjoyed this exercise and this painting, and I hope that it went swimmingly for you. Please let me know in the comments. I would love to see your results, and I'll see you next week for another lesson.